Welcome. Good morning. Thank you, everybody. Hopefully you're watching this. Want to introduce myself. My name is Lauren Wells. I am joined today by Jack Malpass from NextGen Trust. So we're going to do kind of an educational collaborative webinar for you today. So we are going to talk about 7E. I'm going to talk about, let me slide to show you this agenda. Talk about 7E, who we are, how we got started, mortgage note investing, and kind of what it is at a high level. I'll give you a case study and go over some frequently asked questions. Then I'm going to hand it over to Jack to talk about, what a self-directed IRA is and how it could be a potential funding source for not only notes, but perhaps even other alternative investments you might be looking into. So with that, Jack, do you have anything to add?
No, you're spot on, Lauren. That sounds great. I
Okay.
can't wait to get rolling.
Okay, let's do it. So a little bit about 7E. So we are a mortgage note company, and what's important, I think, is talking about like how I got to be here. So I actually come from the corporate world. I worked in software sales for a really long time and started realizing that most people who, well, it kind of goes a little bit further back, actually. Let me step back a bit. I was also volunteer coaching at the time for a local high school water polo team. When I was looking at the stadium of parents who would show up, I realized most of the parents who were consistently there, practices, games, tournaments, all the things for their kids, were either invested in real estate or own their own business. So at that point, this is me I was probably 22, 23. I, realized that at some point I want to start investing in real estate and or own my own business. So at the time I actually was working a W-2 job as well. And I was using my sales commissions to fund my real estate investments. I stumbled across mortgage notes at one of the several networking, webinars that I had attended, much like probably most of you listening in are doing right now. Learning as much as I could. Mortgage notes really resonated with me because I liked the fact that I could be the bank and not a landlord. And it seemed, I won't say fully passive, but passive adjacent, meaning, I'm not actively as involved as I would be if it was a vacation rental, but I'm not 100% passive in as well. So I met my current business partner at 7E, Chris, and at a conference about mortgage notes. And we started working together and collaborating on, tons of different one-off deals of some past funds, which then led us to launch our most recent offerings and really make our asset class, which is already, not a very common asset class, available to the masses and accessible in terms of kind of a Regulation A offering. So I will kind of talk now about the asset class. So mortgage notes. Most people have no idea that this is something that you can invest in. So for example, if anybody listening has ever owned a home and you've received a letter in the mail that said, hey, your loan has been sold by Chase to Bank of America, make your payments here. That's essentially the sale of a note. So I just remember when we first bought our first home, that was a letter we received within a month of buying our home. And my husband and I were very confused and thought we did something wrong because our loan had been sold. So this is a massive industry. There's about over 13 trillion in single family debt, over 83 million in mortgages taken out in the US. And of that, there's about 200 to 500 billion in non-performing debt floating around. So really what we're doing at 7E with our funds is really kind of like a speck of sand on a beach. Like we are really cherry picking specific assets that we're investing in. And so mortgage note investing is essentially an alternative investment strategy that is secured by physical real estate. Now, in our case, that is single family homes. The notes, the people who are purchasing these notes as investors are buying them from banks, credit unions, whole loan traders, private lenders, hedge funds. And then when you're purchasing these, you're typically purchasing them at a discount because of their, status. And I'll get to that in a second. And what you're purchasing is you're purchasing the rights to the borrower's future mortgage payments, and the rights to repayment should anything go, not according to the terms of their note. So I think something that, to simplify that, when you're purchasing a note, you're becoming the bank. You're going to start receiving the monthly payments, and say the borrower decides, hey, I'm not going to pay, you also have the option to take back the property, just like a bank would. So that's kind of mortgage note investing in kind of a short summary. And really within that, there's two types of assets that people typically invest in. So you have your performing, which is when a borrower is making their mortgage payments on time every month per the terms of their agreement. And typically, if you're buying those on the secondary market, you're looking at getting them anywhere from 60 to 90 cents of the outstanding balance. So you're getting that discount. And then you have your non-performing. And that's really where the bigger discount is coming in, because these loans are loans that haven't been paid in 90 days or more. So they're delinquent. For example, the average actual delinquency that we see is years. So, people think I miss a mortgage payment, the bank's going to come knocking at my door. And that's really not necessarily the case. But when they do decide to sell them off, they're typically discounted and purchased by investors from anywhere to 40 to 60 cents or 60% of the outstanding balance. So how does this work? You kind of know what it is at a high level, the different types of loans to invest in. Now, how do I make money? So I like to say that we fix and flip mortgage notes. So most people are familiar with or have watched an HGTV show that talks about flipping homes. And that's essentially kind of what we do, but with notes. So we're not dealing with renovations, we're dealing with borrowers. So just like you would buy a home that you're looking to flip in a state of distress, and you probably get a discount on it, we buy loans on single family homes on it at a discount to their unpaid balance because the borrower is in distress. So we have then a few options on how we, flip that. The first is, and this is about 90% of our portfolio, is we're negotiating a payment schedule with the borrower, generating cash flow from those payments, and then selling it back on the secondary market for a profit because we've increased the value by making it performing. And I'll get to some common misconceptions on why a borrower would choose to pay after not paying for a year. And then for about 10% of our portfolio, when the borrower refuses to come to the table and work with us, we do have the option to take ownership of the home via foreclosure. Typically, it is sold at auction and we're paid off. Or if we do take the property back, we sell the asset. So it's kind of, again, that buying it at a discount, increasing the value, and selling it for the flip at a profit. So a big part of what we do really hinges on the buy. Just like any kind of real estate investment, the money is made on the acquisition. So when purchasing, we really get a glorified Excel spreadsheet, which is known as a tape. And what we do is we get to pick and choose assets that we want to bid on based on our specific buy box. Now, it is similar to buying a home. You're not just bidding and saying, I want these assets, this is what I'm going to pay, and then they are transferred to you. Really, you're putting forth an indicative bid. The seller is accepting that or countering or rejecting your offer. If they accept, you enter into an escrow period. And this is where really the heavy lifting is done. And for us, our kind of like secret sauce is we're evaluating these three specific things: the property, the borrower, and the situation. So we're going to evaluate, is the property worth the value that the seller said it is? So essentially trust but verify. We get a BPO, we make sure that the house is in good condition, that it actually is valued at $500,000 when the seller said it was valued at $500,000. And then we look at the borrower. Is this borrower someone who has a criminal history? Are they a serial bankruptcy filer? And the question when we're looking at the borrower is, what is their ability to repay the loan or get back on track? Or are they someone that we see we'll be able to work with? So we examine the borrower's history, again, criminal situation. We're working with legal counsel to make sure that the lien is in first position, that there's no outstanding taxes, that everything is clean from a title perspective. And then we're looking at the situation. And I think this is probably something that we do best. And not a lot of people really look at or know where to look. When I talk about the situation, I think one of the biggest misconceptions we run into, or I run into when I talk to people who are looking to invest either in passively or actively in this asset class is, well, why would they pay? They haven't paid in a few months, years, maybe. Why would they come to the table now? And really, it's not that every day a borrower wakes up and says, hey, today's the day I'm going to stop making my mortgage payment. It's that typically there's a death, a job loss, a divorce, or some sort of health crisis that caused them to stop making payments. And when they went back to the bank to get back on track, banks are really inflexible. They don't have the ability to say, great, we're going to apply your monthly that you can make towards your current due. They're saying, no, we have to apply it to your late fees, your past due. And so there it becomes kind of a snowball for that borrower. And they just may never have actually had the ability to get out of that hole that was created because of that life incident that stopped them. So again, really a lot in that due diligence process that goes into it. So what I talk about is like when you're investing in mortgage notes, you can invest actively, you're building your own portfolio, you're doing your own due diligence and analysis, but there's also this passive option, and that's mortgage note funds. So if you're someone who wants to be strictly passive, kind of walking you through what about mortgage note funds, especially in this economic climate, is attractive. One, you're going to be investing with people who are focused on this asset class, have played in this asset class, and you're essentially doing your due diligence on them rather than doing all the heavy lifting on an ongoing basis, managing it actively. So I don't love the term mailbox money, but if it's this funds and the passive option is really for people who are looking to be hands off and receive dividends or income from the sponsor who's handling the assets. In terms of this asset class, it's collateralized. So it's real estate. It's investing in something that is secured and backed by physical property. So it's not stocks and bonds that are backed by very little collateral. A note gives you the right to the properties. So again, you're collateralized by secure or by physical real estate. There's profitability in varying market conditions. So, note prices in the marketplace function in relation to supply and demand and are correlated to real estate values, but you're still going to see profits even in a downturn market because we're really not as impacted by the fluctuation in stock market or housing prices because of how we buy our assets or a fund would buy their assets. And then versatility. So when you're investing in a portfolio, you're really mitigating your risk because you're tied to the performance of the portfolio as a whole. You're not tied to the outcome of a single asset. So you're mitigating risk by spreading your investment across the portfolio, again, not being tied to the outcome of a single note. And then within notes, there's really numerous exit strategies. If you've ever invested passively or even actively and you think, okay, a fix and flip, you fix it, you flip it, and that's it. But when you're doing the fixing of a note, there's not one right way to do it. It's not, okay, fix up the inside of an interior house. It's, okay, how can I work with this borrower to get them on track? And there's not, again, just one kind of equation that fits all, which allows us to create a profit in multiple different ways. So it's really versatile in that sense. And that's something that initially drew me to this asset class. Now I want to go over some frequently asked questions really quick and a case study before I hand it over to Jack. So this asset class in this current economic environment. So we're already seeing way more defaults. You probably have been listening to the news. You're hearing credit card default is up, auto loans, and typically housing follows. So we're already seeing that, which for us, what that means is we're seeing more inventory come across our desk. So last year, we probably saw in Q1 of 300 million come across our desk. By Q4, we were seeing 300 million a week, and we're seeing that into 2024 as well. Now, what does this mean? This means that we're going to get better pricing. We're going to be able to cherry pick loans better. We're going to be able to get better pricing on the loans that we do want. And there's also going to be equity. So you have, not only are we going to get better pricing, but the loans that we're looking at, for example, our LTV on our portfolio is about 30%. So unless the housing market drops, astronomically, at which point there would probably be a bigger global issue. Our assets will be secured by, equity coverage. So then you look at the borrower. Why are borrowers incentivized right now? How is this different from 2008? I get this question a lot. Different from 2008 because in 2008, borrowers could walk away from their property. There was inventory everywhere. They were underwater, so they didn't have equity. There was no incentive for them to stay. Now there's a housing shortage, rental rates are through the roof, and most borrowers have significant equity in their homes. So when they're looking at their options and they land in our portfolio, they're more incentivized to come to the table and work with us because the other options really put them in a much worse position. So the incentive on the borrower end as well is something in this economic environment that is advantageous. Now, what motivates buyers? So banks, if you think of Silicon Valley Bank, banks are, after that happened, banks were looking to be liquid. They are saying, oh man, I have a loan at 3%. I'm losing money on this loan at 3%. I can sell that and rewrite new paper at 6%. Now, you think, okay, well, my whole life I've been told if I don't make a mortgage payment, the bank's going to take my home. Why don't they just do that? And they very well could, but banks are really good at creating debt. They are not in the business of managing it. So for a bank to manage a foreclosure from start to finish, it would take the people who are experts at that anywhere from 18 to 24 months. So it's going to take a bank a little bit longer because they're just not staffed to do that. So they're looking to balance their books, remain liquid, and make money because during high interest rate periods, they get better rates on newly originated loans, which is what they're good at doing. So that's why banks would sell, other funds would sell to rebalance their portfolio. If their fund is closing, again, liquidity, or an asset that they brought on might not fit their buy box, but they had to take it down as part of a larger pool. I mentioned this earlier, so I'll just touch on it really quickly. Distressed debt is caused by these four things typically. Again, 90% of our portfolio falls into these categories. This is what job loss, health, divorce, death. Those are the four top reasons that we see people stop making payments, had a snowball effect, and never got caught up. And to kind of show you what this looks like in practice, this is a case study where we acquired this loan. You can see the total amount owed on the loan was $158,000. We got it for $100,000, and the value of the home was just under $400,000. So it was considered non-performing. The borrower had not paid in several months. The prior lender really had minimal effort or contact with the borrower. Like I said, they are not set up to manage the debt. They drafted a demand letter, but never sent it. They took 9 months to send a loss mitigation package. The borrower even came forth and said, hey, I want to do this deal. And lender never responded. So we acquired this loan in May of 2023, almost a year ago now. The borrower came to us with exactly what they offered the bank, $4K in July, $3K with an extra $1K monthly payment in August. That started off, and then we sent a demand letter actually in October due to lack of progress, at which point they came forth and agreed to sign what's called a trial payment plan, TPP, which included a down payment of $3,000, plus they increased their monthly payments by $1,000. So that trial payment plan started in December, and the borrower has consistently made payments, the down payment, and they've made their monthly payments consistently. So after the end of that trial payment plan, which will be June, we will recast the loan with a modification. So to date, we received about $7,000. And the estimated resale value already is 140. So again, we bought it for 100. We could sell it on the secondary market for 140 once we recast that loan and modify it. So kind of showing you that fix and flip process. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jack to talk about using self-directed IRAs.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Nice to see you again.
Yeah.
My name is Jack Malpass. I am the business development specialist here at NextGeneration. We are based in Roseland, New Jersey. We are the admin and custodians of self-directed IRAs, and we hold over $600 million of assets under management. And my job is to educate people on how to use their retirement plan to invest in alternative assets. A little disclaimer before we get started. I'm sure everybody uses this. We are not fiduciaries nor advisors. So the information that I provide is all educational. I cannot tell you whether an investment is a good idea or a bad idea. My job is to just educate you on that. Yes, it can be held in a self-directed IRA, and then help you with the process of getting your account open, funded, and making your investment for you. The owner of our company, Jamie, we are a women-run company. This is our 20th year in business. So this is our 20-year celebration. So we're very proud of that. And hopefully 20 more years to go. So what is a self-directed IRA? A self-directed IRA is different than your regular IRA in that your IRAs that you have with Morgan Stanley or TD Ameritrade or Fidelity, they hold stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Where the self-directed IRA comes in is we hold alternative assets. So anything that's not publicly traded on the stock market can be held in a self-directed IRA. So a self-directed IRA doesn't hold stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. We do the opposite. So self-directed IRAs can invest in a multitude of things, and we'll just go over a few of them. There's so many that are out there that we haven't even come up to think about yet that somebody has brought to us. Self-directed IRAs work like your regular IRAs, whether it's a traditional Roth, a SEP, or a solo plan, that your distribution age, or if it's a tax-deferred account or tax-free account, it works the same way. It's just you're holding alternative assets as opposed to regular stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. So these are the types of plans that can be self-directed. Like I said, they're just like your regular ones: traditional Roth, SEP, solo K plan, covered L's for your kids, HSAs. If you're a teacher with a 403B that you're no longer working there, or 457 plan for the government employees, they can be used if you're no longer working at the company. Old 401ks can be used. People who are still working and have a 401k, the administrator, they'll have to check with the administrator of their plan to see if it will allow for a second custodian. Most plans do not. So it's up to the custodian of your 401k if you're allowed to move money from your 401k to a self-directed IRA. Options for funding. Depending on the type of investment you're looking to do, not every investment needs hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest in. Some people invest in small things like crypto or precious metals. So you can open an account with contribution. Depending on what type of plan you're using is how much you can contribute to your plan. $7,000 if you're under 50, $8,000 if you're over 50 in a traditional and a Roth. SEP and solo plans, of course, are much higher for self-employed people. So that's one way to do it. Transfers. If you have a traditional Roth, you can transfer one from Fidelity to us. That would be a transfer, two like accounts. Transfer is traditional to traditional, Roth to Roth. There's no tax implications because you're moving it from one plan to another, and they're like accounts. A rollover, you can do an IRA rollover, which you can only do once every 365 days, or you could do a 401k rollover. You could do it directly, which means your custodian will cut a check right from your custodian to us, or indirectly, which means they'll cut you a check and then you have 60 days to do something with the money before you get taxed on it. The conversion is when you have a traditional and you are looking to open a Roth. So you can take your traditional, which is a tax deferred account, and do a conversion to a Roth. So it's really popular around tax day. Some people like to do that, but there are other ways to do it. So if you're interested in that, we can go over that. So here are some of the possible investments that you can do. Real estate, very popular. It has to be investment property. It can't be a property that you own. We'll go over some of that a little later. So these are just some of the things that you can do. Okay. The things that you cannot do are you cannot invest in life insurance. You cannot invest in collectibles such as art, cars, baseball cards, any collectible. And because our charter is held in South Dakota and it's still considered a class 1 narcotic, you cannot hold cannabis, anything cannabis related. So someday we'll get to that. And but as of right now, those things are not. Anything other than that and stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, if you have an idea, you bring me the idea and I'll let you know if it's something that can be held. So this is just a small percentage of the things that people do. Okay. Prohibited transactions. So the IRS has some guidelines on what you can and cannot do using your self-directed IRA. So there's different things you cannot do. You can't lend money to yourself. You can't use your IRA to buy a house for yourself or buy a car. You can't lend money to your mom, dad, grandmother, grandfather, your kids. So your IRA has to be, I'm not saying it has to be careful. It's just there are certain rules, and depending on the investment, I'll let you know whether you're doing something that might be disqualified, or you might be working with prohibited transaction, doing something prohibited. There are people who do things that they're not supposed to, and they might think they can get away with it, but the last thing you want is the IRS to find out or catch up to you. So part of my job is to educate you, so I do the best that you don't do something that the IRS is going to have an issue with you. And here we go, the consequences of your prohibited transaction. They will go back all the way to the time you first did your prohibited transaction, and they will start working on taking your IRA and distributing it back to you. And you'll pay taxes, and let's just say it's not pretty. And so I hope everybody heeds the warning and stays within the guidelines. And it's nothing to be afraid of. As long as you follow the rules, it's very easy to do an investment and hopefully get a nice return on your investment. Disqualified people. So you are disqualified from yourself. So your IRA purchases a property. That property is the name of your IRA. Okay. You cannot live on that property. You cannot do any of the work on that property. Okay. So you are disqualified from yourself. These are just some of the people that are disqualified, depending on what investment you are looking to do. Even if you are there is somebody on this list that you are disqualified from, you can partner with them. Okay. So if you're looking to do a fix and flip or a buy and hold, and you may not have enough money in your IRA, but your wife does, even though she's disqualified from you, you can partner together on a deal. Okay. So partnering you can do. It's just they don't want you commingling money. So your husband, you can't open your own account and then start throwing money from your banking account into your own IRA. Okay. There are certain rules. The only way you could put money into your IRA is either through qualified retirement money or through contributions. And so that they just don't want you commingling. Okay. So your disqualified people list, again, depending on the investment, I will find out from you what your plan is, what you're looking to do. And then we'll go over whether you're doing it with a disqualified person, or if you can do it with a disqualified person, how you can do it. So the process, the timeline. Opening an account only takes about 1 to 2 days. Okay. The start of the process is that you contact the custodian that you have your IRA or your old 401k or whatever retirement plan you have, and you liquidate the amount you need for your investment. Okay. Call them up, say, I want to invest into self-directed IRA. I need $150,000. They will tell them you will have them initiate the selling off of the stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, and they'll liquidate it, and they'll leave it in that IRA as cash. Okay. Once it's in a cash position in your IRA, their IRA, then you can move it over to us as cash. Okay. That's how we do it. All right. Like I said, open account 1 to 2 days. Get the application. Once the application is approved, everything's taken care of, then we transition to the transactions team. Our transactions team will work with you with helping you fund your account. Now, this is the hardest part of the whole process, is having money move from one custodian to another. Okay. We have no control over this part right here, the funding. Okay. Like I said, if you start the process of liquidating your IRA, it's the first step in the process, and it starts the whole idea of us getting that money moved over to us. So our transactions team will work with you. They will send you the necessary documents to send to your custodian to help you start moving whether you're transferring, rolling, however you're moving the money to us, wires. So our transactions team will work with you going forward as far as helping you fund. And then any necessary documentations we need going forward. Whatever investment you're looking to do, we'll look at the documents. We do compliance on every investment to make sure that it is something that can be held. So again, depending on what what it is that you're investing in, whether it's a PPM, a subscription agreement, a note you're doing, or you're investing in a syndication operating agreement. There's all different types of paperwork depending on the investment that we take a look at. So again, the opening account and the compliance, we have control over. 2 days, 3 days max on the compliance, but it's the funding that takes the longest. So if you're looking to invest in Lauren's group or any other investment, you want to make sure you have time to do make sure that funding gets taken care of. Once your account is funded with us, then because it is self-directed IRA, you tell us to make the investment for you. And that's how it works. The money gets moved from your IRA with us out to your investment. And then the great thing about it is any kind of return or capital gains all go back into the IRA, because everything is in the name of your IRA. That's what keeps it tax advantaged for you. So if you have any questions, our phone number is there. Or you can reach out to me. And hopefully, this was great. I appreciate this so much, Lauren. If anybody's interested, please feel free to reach out.
Yeah, so don't worry, we will be sending this out via email as well. So if you missed it or had to jump early for whatever reason, you will be able to see the full replay. And again, any questions about the process? I know my team gets a lot of people who are interested in setting up a self-directed account or hadn't heard of it. So we can always put you in contact with Jack and his team. So feel free to reach out to them directly or us as well if you're a current investor with us. Again, we're happy to assist. So thank you again, Jack.
Oh, my pleasure, Lauren. Thank you so much for your time and having me on.
Awesome. Thank you.